First contact, the Amper encounter. The vast emptiness of space stretched before Captain Jake Morrison as he stood on the bridge of the UAS Horizon, humanity's most advanced diplomatic vessel. His piercing blue eyes scanned the view screen, searching for any sign of the mysterious alien race they had traveled so far to meet. The tension on the bridge was palpable, a mixture of excitement and apprehension that seemed to crackle in the air like static electricity. "Captain," his first officer, Sarah Chen, called out, her voice cutting through the silence. "We're picking up an energy signature. It's massive." Jake's heart raced as he watched a shimmer in space transform into a colossal ship, easily dwarfing the horizon. Its sleek, organic design spoke of technology far beyond human understanding. This was it, humanity's first contact with the legendary Amper, a warrior race known throughout the galaxy for their strength, honor, and isolationist tendencies. "Open a channel," Jake commanded, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth-ship Horizon. We come in peace, seeking dialogue and mutual understanding." For several agonizing moments, there was no response. Jake could feel the weight of history on his shoulders. Everything humanity had worked for, every breakthrough in space travel and diplomacy, had led to this moment. Suddenly, the view screen flickered to life, revealing a towering figure that took Jake's breath away. The Amper before him stood at least 8 feet tall, with iridescent skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Intricate tattoos covered its muscular frame, telling stories of battles won and honors earned. But it was the eyes that captured Jake's attention, fierce, intelligent, and filled with an otherworldly wisdom. "I am High Commander Zara of the Amper Collective," the alien's voice boomed, a mixture of grinding stone and melodic humming. "State your purpose, human, and know that any act of aggression will be met with swift and total annihilation." Jake swallowed hard, acutely aware that the fate of humanity rested on his next words. "High Commander, we have journeyed across the stars to seek an alliance with the Amper. Our worlds face a common threat, one that endangers the entire galaxy. We believe that together we can." Silence. Zora's voice thundered, causing several crew members to flinch. "The Amper do not form alliances. We stand alone, as we have for millennia. Your request is denied. Leave our space immediately or face the consequences." Jake's mind raced. Everything he had prepared, every carefully crafted diplomatic phrase, seemed woefully inadequate in the face of the Amper's unwavering stance. But he couldn't give up, not with so much at stake. "With all due respect, High Commander," Jake said, squaring his shoulders, "I believe you're making a mistake. The threat we face—" "This discussion is over, human," Zara interrupted, her eyes narrowing dangerously. "You have one planetary rotation to depart. After that, we will consider your presence an act of war." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Jake could feel the eyes of his crew upon him, looking for guidance, for hope. He knew what protocol dictated. They should leave, report back to Earth, and let the politicians decide the next move. But something deep inside him rebelled against the idea of giving up so easily. "Captain," Sarah said softly, breaking the silence, "what are your orders?" Jake took a deep breath, his mind made up. "Prepare a shuttle. I'm going over there." The reaction was immediate and intense. Protests erupted from every corner of the bridge, with Sarah's voice rising above the rest. "Captain, that's suicide. The Amper have made their position clear. If you violate their space, they'll kill you without hesitation." "Maybe," Jake conceded, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Or maybe they'll be so shocked by my audacity that they'll actually listen. Sometimes, Sarah, you have to take a leap of faith." As the shuttle bay doors opened, revealing the imposing bulk of the Amper ship, Jake felt a moment of doubt. Was he really about to risk everything on this crazy gambit? But as he guided the small craft towards the alien vessel, he knew in his heart it was the right choice. Humanity needed this alliance, and he was willing to put his life on the line to make it happen. The Amper ship loomed larger and larger in his view screen, its surface a mesmerizing dance of light and shadow. Jake opened a channel, his voice clear and confident. "This is Captain Jake Morrison. I come alone and unarmed, requesting permission to board and speak with High Commander Zara." For a heart-stopping moment, there was no response. Then, to Jake's amazement, a docking bay opened like a great maw in the side of the ship. Taking a deep breath, he guided the shuttle inside. As the airlock cycled and the door hissed open, Jake found himself face to face with a contingent of Amper warriors, their weapons trained squarely on his chest. At their center stood High Commander Zara, her expression a mixture of fury and fascination. "You dare to defy our orders?" Zara's voice was low and dangerous. "Give me one reason why I shouldn't end your life where you stand." Jake met her gaze unflinchingly, acutely aware that his next words could determine the fate of two species. "Because, High Commander, I believe that the greatest acts of courage often defy logic. I'm here to show you that humans are willing to risk everything for the chance at true understanding between our peoples." A murmur ran through the assembled Amper. Jake could see a flicker of something, respect, perhaps, in Zara's eyes. "You are either very brave or very foolish, Captain Morrison," Zara said, her tone softening almost imperceptibly. "Perhaps in your case, it is both. Come, you have earned the right to be heard." As Jake followed Zara deeper into the Amper ship, he knew that this was only the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead, convincing a race of warriors that alliance was not weakness, but strength. But for the first time since their encounter began, he felt a glimmer of hope. Sometimes, it took a human's unique blend of courage and audacity to bridge the gap between worlds. The corridors of the Amper ship were a marvel of organic technology, pulsing with an inner light that seemed almost alive. Jake struggled to keep pace with Zara's long strides, his mind racing to take in every detail of this alien world. The air hummed with an energy he couldn't quite define, making the hair on the back of his neck stand on end. They entered a vast chamber that Jake assumed was some kind of command center. Holographic displays danced in the air, showing star charts and data streams he couldn't begin to comprehend. Amper warriors worked at various stations, their movements graceful and precise. Zara turned to face him, her towering form casting a shadow over Jake. "Speak, human. You have risked much to be here. Let us see if your words match your bravery." Jake took a deep breath, knowing that everything hinged on this moment. "High Commander, I come to you not just as a representative of Earth, but as a voice for all the worlds threatened by the Zix Empire. For years, they've been expanding aggressively, conquering and enslaving entire species. Earth is their next target, but we know we're not the last. Even the Amper, as powerful as you are, cannot stand alone against their full might." He paused, gauging Zara's reaction. Her face remained impassive, but he could see a flicker of interest in her eyes. "We don't ask for your protection," Jake continued, his voice growing stronger. "We ask for partnership. Humanity has developed technologies and strategies that complement Amper's strength. Together, we could not only defend ourselves but push the Zix back, freeing countless worlds from their tyranny." Zara was silent for a long moment, her gaze boring into Jake as if trying to peer into his very soul. Finally, she spoke, her voice thoughtful. "Your words are bold, Captain Morrison, but words are wind. How can you prove the worth of humanity as allies?" Jake smiled, having anticipated this question. "Give us a chance to show you. Allow a joint mission. Amper warriors and human specialists working together to gather intelligence on Zix movements. Let our actions speak louder than any words could." The chamber erupted into heated discussion among the Amper present. Jake caught fragments of their alien language, noting the passion in their voices. Zara raised a hand, silencing the room instantly. "Your proposal is intriguing," she admitted, "but it goes against millennia of Amper tradition. We have always stood alone, relying on our own strength." "With all due respect, High Commander," Jake said, seizing the moment, "sometimes the greatest strength lies in knowing when to join hands with others. The galaxy is changing. Can the AMPA afford to be left behind? A tense silence fell over the chamber. Jake held his breath, knowing he had pushed to the very edge of diplomacy. Then, to his amazement, Zara did something he never expected. She laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that seemed to shake the very air around them. "You have fire in you, Jake Morrison," Zara said, using his first name for the first time. "It has been too long since anyone has dared to challenge the AMPA so boldly. Very well, we will allow this joint mission. But know this, if your people prove unworthy, if there is even a hint of betrayal, the consequences will be severe." Jake nodded sullenly, understanding the weight of the opportunity he had just won. "Thank you, High Commander. You won't regret this decision." As he prepared to return to the horizon, his mind already racing with plans for the upcoming mission, Jake couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. He had come face to face with beings from another world, had argued and reasoned with them, and had taken the first step towards a historic alliance. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, cultural misunderstandings, and the looming threat of the Zix Empire. But as he looked back at the massive AMPA ship, Jake felt a surge of hope. Humanity had taken its first real step into the galactic community, and he had a feeling that nothing would ever be the same again. Forging an alliance. The weeks following Jake's daring encounter with the AMPA were a whirlwind of activity. The UES horizon had become a hub of frenetic energy as humans and AMPA worked side by side, preparing for their joint mission against the Zix Empire. The contrast between the two species was stark. Humans with their quick movements and constant chatter, AMPA with their stoic demeanor and precise actions. Yet, slowly but surely, a rhythm was developing. Jake stood in the newly constructed war room, a holographic display of the target Zix outpost rotating slowly before him. High Commander Zara towered beside him, her iridescent skin shimmering under the artificial light. "The approach will be treacherous," Zara rumbled, her voice like distant thunder. "Zix defenses are unlike anything your people have faced." Jake nodded, his eyes never leaving the hologram. "That's why we're not going in guns blazing. Stealth is our best weapon here." He tapped a control, zooming in on a particular section of the outpost. "Our intel suggests this is their primary communication hub. If we can infiltrate it, we'll have access to their entire network, troop movements, invasion plans, everything." Zora's eyes narrowed, a mix of skepticism and curiosity in her gaze. "And how do you propose we achieve this infiltration? The Zix are not fools." A grin spread across Jake's face, a glint of mischief in his eyes. "That's where things get interesting. We're going to use something the Zix would never expect, a combination of AMPA strength and human ingenuity." Over the next hour, Jake laid out his plan. It was audacious, bordering on insane, but as he spoke, he could see a spark of excitement growing in Zara's eyes. By the time he finished, even the stoic AMPA commander couldn't hide her admiration. "Your species continues to surprise me," Jake Morrison, Zara said, a hint of warmth in her usually stern voice. "This plan is either brilliant or suicidal, perhaps both." Jake laughed, the sound echoing through the war room. "In my experience, those often go hand in hand. Now, let's gather the team. We've got a lot of work to do." The Joint Strike Force assembled in the Horizon's shuttle bay, a mix of humanity's best special operatives and AMPA's elite warriors. Jake stood before them, feeling the weight of the moment. "What we're about to attempt has never been done before," he began, his voice carrying to every corner of the bay. "Humans and AMPA, working as one to strike at the heart of our common enemy. The Zix think they know what we're capable of. Today, we prove them wrong." He nodded to Sarah, who stepped forward with a case. Inside were devices that looked like a cross between bracelets and high-tech gauntlets. "These are neural sync devices," Jake explained, strapping one to his wrist. "They'll allow us to communicate telepathically, bridging the gap between human and AMPA thought patterns. It's not perfect, but it'll give us an edge the Zix won't see coming." As the devices were distributed, Jake could see the mix of excitement and apprehension on the faces of both humans and AMPA. This level of integration between species was unprecedented, and not without risk. "Remember," he continued, "we're stronger together than we ever were apart. Trust in each other, trust in the plan, and there's nothing we can't accomplish." With final preparations complete, the strike team boarded their stealth shuttle. As the bay doors opened, revealing the star-studded expanse of space, Jake felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it, the moment that would define the future of human-AMPA relations and potentially turn the tide against the Zix. The journey to the Zix outpost was tense, filled with last-minute checks and silent prayers. As they approached their target, Jake activated his neural sync device. Instantly, his mind was flooded with a cacophony of thoughts and sensations, the collective consciousness of the entire strike team. It was overwhelming at first, a dizzying swirl of human emotions and AMPA stoicism, but as the initial shock faded, Jake began to sense a harmony forming. Human creativity melded with AMPA tactical precision, creating a synergy unlike anything he had experienced before. Approaching drop zone, the pilot's voice crackled over the comm. "Stealth systems engaged. We're invisible to their sensors, for now." Jake stood, addressing the team one last time. "This is it, people. Remember your training, trust your instincts, and watch each other's backs. Let's make history." The shuttle's rear hatch opened, revealing the looming bulk of the Zix outpost. Without a word, the strike team launched into action. AMPA warriors, their powerful bodies encased in advanced stealth suits, led the way, creating a path through the outpost's outer defenses. Jake and his human operatives followed closely, their movements perfectly synchronized with their AMPA counterparts thanks to the neural link. As they penetrated deeper into the facility, Jake marveled at the efficiency of their joint operation. AMPA strength cleared obstacles that would have stymied humans alone, while human ingenuity found solutions to puzzles that baffled even the brilliant AMPA minds. They encountered their first real resistance at the entrance to the communication hub. A squad of Zix guards, their insectoid forms bristling with weapons, blocked their path. In the past, this would have led to a costly firefight, but now, with the neural sync in play, the strike team moved as one. AMPA warriors charged forward, their impenetrable shields absorbing enemy fire. In the chaos, human operatives slipped through gaps in the Zix formation, striking at vulnerable points with pinpoint accuracy. The skirmish was over in minutes, with minimal casualties on their side. As they secured the hub, Jake felt a swell of pride. This was what he had envisioned: two species, once strangers, now working in perfect harmony. But there was no time to celebrate. They had a mission to complete. "Sarah, you're up," Jake called, gesturing to the complex array of alien technology before them. "Work your magic." Sarah Chen, the Horizon's brilliant xenotechnologist, stepped forward. Her hands flew over the Zix controls, her mind interfacing with the neural network to process information at an unprecedented rate. AMPA warriors stood guard, their enhanced senses alert for any approach of enemy reinforcements. "I'm in," Sarah announced after several tense minutes. "Downloading now." "Jake, you're not going to believe this." As data flooded their neural link, Jake's eyes widened. The Zix plans were more extensive than they had ever imagined. It wasn't just Earth at risk. The Empire had designs on conquering the entire sector, including the AMPA homeworld. "We need to get this information back to both our governments," Jake said, his voice urgent. "This changes everything." But as they prepared to extract, alarms blared throughout the facility. The Zix had discovered their presence, and they were coming in force. "New plan," Jake shouted, his mind already racing through possibilities. "Sarah, can you access their weapon systems from here?" A smile spread across Sarah's face as she caught onto his idea. "Already on it, Captain." What followed was a daring escape that would be talked about for generations. As waves of Zix soldiers descended upon them, the strike team used the outpost's own defenses against their creators. Turrets turned on their masters, Force fields trapped Zix in their own corridors, and chaos reigned supreme. Through it all, the human Amper team moved as one, covering each other's weaknesses and amplifying their strengths. Jake found himself fighting back-to-back with Zara, their movements so perfectly synchronized it was as if they had trained together for years. As they finally reached their extraction point, the outpost crumbling around them, Jake allowed himself a moment of exhilaration. They had done it, completed the mission, secured crucial intelligence, and proved beyond a doubt the potential of human-Amper cooperation. The journey back to the horizon was filled with a mix of exhaustion and elation. As the neural sync devices were removed, Jake felt a strange sense of loss. The connection he had shared with his team, both human and Amper, had been profound. In the Horizon's conference room, Jake and Zara stood side by side, presenting their findings to a joint committee of human and Amper leaders. The mood was somber as the full extent of the Zix threat became clear. "This is no longer about individual worlds," Jake concluded, his voice firm. "The Zix Empire threatens every free species in the galaxy. We must stand together, or we will fall one by one." There was a moment of heavy silence as the implications sank in. Then, to Jake's amazement, the Amper High Council member rose to his feet. "Captain Morrison," the ancient Amper intoned, his voice carrying the weight of centuries, "you have shown us the true meaning of strength through unity. The Amper Collective hereby formally requests an alliance with humanity." The room erupted into cheers and thunderous applause. As Jake shook hands with the Amper leaders, sealing a pact that would change the course of galactic history, he caught Zora's eye. The Amper commander gave him a nod of respect, a gesture worth more than any words. As the celebration continued around him, Jake's mind was already turning to the challenges ahead. The alliance was formed, but the real test was yet to come. The Zix Empire was still out there, a looming threat that would require every ounce of human ingenuity and Amper strength to overcome. But for the first time since learning of the Zix threat, Jake felt a genuine sense of hope. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not through conquest or subjugation, but through courage, compassion, and the willingness to extend a hand in friendship. As he looked out at the sea of human and Amper faces, now united in common purpose, Jake knew that whatever trials lay ahead, they would face them together. And together, they just might be unstoppable. The battle for New Eden. The alliance between humans and Amper had barely been formalized when the Zix Empire struck. Their target, New Eden, humanity's most prosperous colony world. As alarms blared throughout the UES horizon, Jake Morrison raced to the bridge, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. "Status report," he barked, sliding into the captain's chair. Sarah's fingers flew over her console. Massive Zix fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. They're moving to surround New Eden. Planetary defenses are engaging, but they're outnumbered 10-1. Jake's mind raced. New Eden was home to millions of civilians, farmers, scientists, families who had sought a fresh start among the stars. He couldn't let it fall. "Send word to the Amper. We need every ship they can spare," Jake ordered, "and get me a direct line to New Eden's governor." As the view screen flickered to life, revealing the worried face of Governor Elena Rodriguez, Jake felt the weight of command settle heavily on his shoulders. "Governor, I need you to initiate emergency protocols," Jake said, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around him. "Get as many civilians to the underground shelters as possible. We're coming, but you need to buy us time." Elena nodded grimly. "We'll hold out as long as we can, Captain. Godspeed." The transmission cut out, replaced by a tactical display of the New Eden system. The situation looked dire. Waves of Zix fighters swarming towards the planet, with massive dreadnoughts hanging back, preparing for a killing blow. "All hands, battle stations." Jake's voice rang out over the ship-wide comm. "This is not a drill. The people of New Eden are counting on us. We will not let them down." As the Horizon and its escort fleet moved to engage the Zix forces, Jake couldn't help but feel a twinge of doubt. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an enemy that had conquered countless worlds. But then he remembered the incredible synergy he had witnessed between humans and AMPA during their joint mission. If they could replicate that on a larger scale— "Sarah, patch me through to High Commander Zara," Jake said, an idea forming in his mind. Moments later, Zara's imposing visage filled the screen. "Speak quickly, Jake Morrison. We are mobilizing our forces as we speak." "I have a plan," Jake said, his eyes gleaming with that uniquely human spark of inspiration. "But it's going to require a level of trust and cooperation our people have never attempted before." As Jake outlined his strategy, he could see the mix of skepticism and intrigue in Zara's eyes. It was audacious, bordering on insane, a perfect blend of human unpredictability and AMPA precision. "You ask much, Jake Morrison," Zara rumbled, her expression unreadable. "But these are desperate times. We will follow your lead." The next hours were a blur of frantic preparation and tense anticipation. As the combined human-AMPA fleet assembled on the outskirts of the New Eden system, Jake stood on the Horizon's bridge, surveying the armada before him. It was an awe-inspiring sight, sleek human vessels alongside the organic, almost living ships of the AMPA. Two species, once strangers, now united against a common foe. "All ships, this is Captain Jake Morrison," he broadcast, his voice carrying to every corner of the fleet. "What we're about to attempt has never been done before. Humans and AMPA fighting as one, with a shared neural network linking our minds and strategies. The Zix think they know what we're capable of. Today, we prove them wrong." He paused, letting the weight of the moment sink in. "Remember why we fight. For New Eden. For Earth. For the AMPA homeworld. For every free being in this galaxy. Together, we are unstoppable. Now, let's show these Zix bastards what happens when they mess with our people." A roar of approval echoed through the comm channels, human cheers mingling with the deep, resonant battle cries of the AMPA. As one, the fleet surged forward, plunging into the heart of the Zix armada. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations as one of the most extraordinary engagements in galactic history. Human ships darted and weaved with impossible agility, their movements guided by the lightning-fast reflexes of AMPA tactical minds. AMPA dreadnoughts unleashed devastating barrages, their targeting perfected by human predictive algorithms. Through it all, Jake coordinated the assault from the Horizon's bridge, his mind linked to both human and AMPA commanders through the neural network. It was overwhelming at first, a cacophony of thoughts, strategies, and sensations. But as the battle progressed, a harmony emerged. Human creativity melded seamlessly with AMPA tactical precision, creating a synergy that the Zix could never have anticipated. "Zix flagship detected." Zara's voice cut through the mental chatter. "They're hanging back, coordinating the assault." Jake's eyes narrowed. This was their chance. "All ships, execute Operation Trojan Horse, just like we planned." What followed was a maneuver that would be studied in war colleges for centuries to come. A group of smaller, faster ships, a mix of human and AMPA vessels, broke off from the main battle. To the Zix, it appeared as if this task force was making a desperate, suicidal run at their flagship. But as Zix defenses concentrated on this apparent threat, the true attack unfolded. AMPA ships, their hulls modified with experimental human cloaking technology, slipped past the Zix defenses undetected. They carried an elite strike team, the very same human and AMPA operatives who had proven so effective in their previous mission. Jake watched, his heart in his throat, as the strike team breached the Zix flagship. Through the neural link, he could sense their progress, the initial confusion of the Zix, the fierce close-quarters combat, the race against time to reach the ship's control center. Suddenly, a surge of triumph flooded the neural network. They had done it. The strike team had seized control of the Zix flagship. "Now," Jake shouted, his voice ringing with authority, "initiate the virus." Sarah's fingers flew over her console, uploading a specially crafted AI virus into the Zix network. It spread like wildfire, turning the Zik's own ships against them. Confusion reigned as Zik's vessels began firing on each other, their commanders suborned by the human-Amper hybrid A. The tide of battle turned in an instant. With their command structure in chaos, the once unstoppable Zik's armada began to crumble. Human and Amper ships pressed their advantage, methodically dismantling the invasion force. As the last Zik's ship fell silent, a cheer went up across the fleet. They had done it. New Eden was saved. In the aftermath of the battle, as rescue operations began and damage reports flooded in, Jake stood in the Horizon's observation lounge, gazing out at the battered but unbroken planet below. He sensed a presence behind him and turned to see Zara, the Amper commander's usually stoic features softened by a look of respect. "You did it, Jake Morrison," Zara rumbled, coming to stand beside him. "Your plan was unconventional, but effective. The Amper owe you a debt of gratitude." Jake shook his head, a tired smile on his face. "We did it, Zara. All of us together. This victory belongs to both our peoples." As they stood there, watching shuttles ferry survivors and supplies between the surface and the orbiting fleet, Jake felt a profound sense of hope. The battle for New Eden had proven beyond a doubt the potential of human-Amper cooperation. They have faced an overwhelming force and emerged victorious, not through superior firepower, but through trust, ingenuity, and the willingness to bridge the gap between their species. But even as he basked in the glow of victory, Jake knew that this was only the beginning. The Zik's empire had been bloodied, but not defeated. There would be more battles to come, more challenges to face. Yet as he looked at Zara, seeing the same determination mirrored in her alien eyes, Jake felt ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at them. Humanity had found its place among the stars, standing shoulder to shoulder with the Amper against the darkness that threatened them all. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Together, humans and Amper were a force to be reckoned with, and the Zik's empire was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Infiltration of the Hive. The victory at New Eden had bought the Human-Amper alliance precious time, but the Zik's empire remained a looming threat. As Jake Morrison pored over intelligence reports in his ready room aboard the UAS Horizon, he knew they needed a game-changing strategy to turn the tide of war once and for all. A chime at his door broke his concentration. "Enter," he called out, rubbing his tired eyes. High Commander Zara ducked through the doorway, her imposing frame filling the room. "Jake Morrison," she rumbled, "our scouts have returned with troubling news." Jake's fatigue vanished instantly. "What is it?" Zara's expression was grim as she activated a holographic display. A massive, grotesque structure materialized before them, a twisting amalgamation of organic and mechanical components that seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. "By the stars," Jake breathed, his eyes wide. "What are we looking at?" "The Zik's call it the Hive," Zara explained, her voice low. "It is the nerve center of their entire empire, part shipyard, part command structure, and home to their supreme intelligence." Jake's mind raced with the implications. "If we could take it out, we could cripple the entire Zik's war machine," Zara finished, a predatory gleam in her eye. For the next several hours, Jake and Zara pored over the scout data, formulating a plan that was equal parts brilliant and insane. When they finally emerged from the ready room, their expressions were a mix of determination and grim resolve. "Assemble the War Council," Jake ordered as they strode onto the bridge. "It's time to take the fight to the enemy." The plan they presented was audacious. A small, elite team would infiltrate the Hive using a captured Zik's shuttle, while the main fleet engaged the Hive's defenses as a diversion. The goal: to plant a modified version of the AA virus they had used at New Eden, turning the Hive's own systems against it. "This mission is strictly volunteer," Jake announced to the assembled human and Ampe operatives. "The risks are extreme, and there's a good chance it's a one-way trip." To his amazement, every hand in the room went up. The bond forged between humans and Ampe in battle had created a unity of purpose that transcended species. In the end, a team of 6 was chosen, 3 humans and 3 Ampa, including Jake himself and Kira, Zora's most trusted warrior. As they prepare for the mission, Jake couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and trepidation. They were about to attempt something unprecedented in the history of either of their species. The day of the operation arrived with a palpable tension in the air. As Jake and his team boarded the modified Zix shuttle, he exchanged a final nod with Zora. No words were necessary. They both understood the weight of what was at stake. The journey to the hive was nerve-wracking. Every moment, they expected to be discovered, for alarms to blare and enemy ships to swarm them. But their disguise held, and soon they were docking in one of the hive's countless hangar bays. "Remember," Jake whispered as they prepared to disembark, "we're in this together. Trust in each other, trust in the plan, and we just might pull this off." The interior of the hive was a nightmarish labyrinth of twisting corridors and pulsating organic matter. The team moved silently, their steps muffled by the strange, spongy surface beneath their feet. Jake felt a constant, low-level revulsion, as if the very air was trying to reject their presence. They encountered their first real obstacle at a security checkpoint. A group of Zix drones blocked their path, their multifaceted eyes scanning suspiciously. For a heart-stopping moment, Jake thought they had been discovered. Then Kira stepped forward, her Ampa features hidden beneath a holographic disguise. She chittered and clicked in perfect mimicry of Zix communication, her performance so flawless that even Jake almost believed it. The drones hesitated, then stepped aside. As the team moved past, Jake caught Kira's eye, sharing a moment of silent triumph. It was moments like these that reinforced his belief in the power of their alliance. As they delved deeper into the hive, the challenges grew more intense. They narrowly avoided patrols, hacked through security systems, and navigated treacherous biomechanical hazards. Through it all, the human Ampa team worked in perfect synergy, each member's strengths compensating for the other's weaknesses. Finally, they reached the central core, a vast, pulsating chamber that housed the hive's primary systems. As they gazed upon the alien technology before them, Jake felt a moment of doubt. Could they really hope to understand and subvert something so utterly foreign? But then Sarah Chen, the team's tech expert, stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with determination. "I can do this," she said, her voice steady. "Just keep them off me while I work." What followed was a tense battle against time. As Sarah interfaced with the hive's systems, uploading their modified virus, the rest of the team fought to hold off waves of Zix defenders. Human ingenuity and Ampa strength combined in a deadly dance, keeping the enemy at bay. Just as it seemed they might be overwhelmed, Sarah's voice rang out. "It's done. The virus is uploading." A tremor ran through the entire structure, accompanied by a deafening shriek that seemed to come from the hive itself. Alarms blared, and chaos erupted all around them. "Time to go," Jake shouted, firing his weapon at a group of advancing Zix. Back to the shuttle. Their escape was a blur of frantic combat and narrow escapes. The hive was tearing itself apart around them, its systems turned against each other by the human Ampa virus. As they finally reached their shuttle, Jake realized with a start that they were 2 members short. "Where are Kira and Lieutenant Reeves?" he demanded, his heart racing. As if in answer, Kira's voice crackled over their comm system. "We won't make it, Captain. The hangar's collapsing. But we'll make sure this virus finishes its job." Jake's protest died in his throat as he realized the truth of her words. With a heavy heart, he gave the order to launch, watching through the view screen as the hive imploded behind them. The flight back to the fleet was somber, the team's victory tempered by the loss of their comrades. As they approached the horizon, Jake saw that the battle had been fierce. Human and Ampa ships showed signs of heavy damage, though they had clearly emerged victorious. In the aftermath of the hive's destruction, the Zix Empire fell into disarray. Without their central command structure, their forces became disorganized and easily routed. The tide of war had turned decisively in favor of the Human-Amper alliance. Days later, as the fleet began its journey home, Jake stood in the Horizon's observation lounge, gazing out at the stars. He sensed a presence beside him and turned to see Zara, her usually stoic features softened by shared grief and triumph. "We did it," Jake said softly. "But the cost." Zara placed a massive hand on his shoulder, the gesture surprisingly gentle. "They died as warriors, Jake Morrison. Their sacrifice will be honored by both our peoples for generations to come." As they stood there in companionable silence, Jake felt a complex mix of emotions: sorrow for those lost, pride in what they had accomplished, and hope for the future they had secured. The Human-Amper alliance had faced its greatest test and emerged stronger than ever. The war was over, but Jake knew that the real work was just beginning. There would be planets to rebuild, refugees to resettle, and a new galactic order to establish. But as he looked at Zara, seeing the same determination mirrored in her alien eyes, he knew that together, their peoples could face any challenge. The stars stretched out before them, full of possibility. Humanity and the Amper had found not just allies in each other, but true partners in shaping the future of the galaxy. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it united, their bond forged in the crucible of war and tempered by shared sacrifice. As the Horizon jumped to light speed, carrying them towards home and the dawning of a new era, Jake allowed himself a small smile. The journey had been long and costly, but at last they had found their place among the stars, turning the tide. The destruction of the Zix hive had dealt a crippling blow to the Empire, but Jake Morrison knew better than to underestimate their enemies. As the UES Horizon led the victorious fleet back towards Allied space, a sense of unease gnawed at him. The Zix had proven time and again their ability to adapt and overcome. This war was far from over. His instincts proved correct when, mere days from reaching safe harbor, the fleet's long-range sensors detected a massive energy surge. "Report," Jake barked, striding onto the bridge. Zara's face was pale as she looked up from her console. "Captain, it's impossible. We're detecting a Zix armada, larger than anything we've ever encountered." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a sea of Zix ships stretching as far as the eye could see. At their center loomed a monstrosity that dwarfed even the destroyed hive, a ship of such immense proportions that it seemed to bend space around it. "By the void," Zara breathed, her normally stoic demeanor shaken. "They've awakened the Worldrender." Jake's blood ran cold. The Worldrender was thought to be a myth, a doomsday weapon of such power that even the Zix feared to use it. Yet here it was, bearing down on them with implacable purpose. "All ships, battle formations," Jake ordered, his mind racing. "We need to buy time for the civilian vessels to escape." What followed was a battle of unprecedented scale and ferocity. The combined Human-Amper fleet fought with desperate valor, their ships darting and weaving through the Zix armada like schools of fish evading a predator. But for every Zix vessel they destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. And always, the Worldrender loomed ever closer, its massive form casting a shadow that seemed to swallow light itself. "Our weapons aren't even scratching it," Zara reported, her voice tight with frustration. "That thing's shields are like nothing we've ever seen." Jake gripped the arms of his command chair, his knuckles white. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and rapidly running out of options. But as he watched his people fight and die around him, a realization struck him with the force of a supernova. "There's only one way to end this," he said softly, more to himself than anyone else. Then louder, "Zara, I need you to take command of the fleet." The Amper commander's eyes widened as she grasped his intent. "Jake Morrison, you cannot be serious. The odds of survival are..." "Irrelevant," Jake cut her off, a grim smile on his face. "Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith." What happened next would be debated by military historians for centuries to come. As the main fleet continued its desperate holding action, a small, sleek vessel broke away, streaking towards the world-render at speeds that strained the laws of physics. Aboard that ship, the Horizon's modified shuttle, Jake sat at the controls, his jaw set with determination. Beside him, a hand-picked team of human and AMPA volunteers worked feverishly, making last-minute adjustments to their deadly cargo, a cobbled-together fusion bomb that combined the best of both species' technology. "You know," Jake said, his voice surprisingly calm, "I always wondered what it would be like to fly into the heart of a star. Guess this is the next best thing." His team managed weak chuckles, the gallows humor a thin shield against the enormity of what they were about to attempt. As they approached the world-render, alarms blared throughout the shuttle. The massive ship's point defense systems had locked onto them, filling space with a web of deadly energy. "Evasive maneuvers," Jake shouted, his hands dancing over the controls. The shuttle jerked and spun, narrowly avoiding beams of energy that could have vaporized them instantly. "We're not going to make it through that defense screen," one of the AMPA warriors growled, his massive frame strapped into a seat that seemed comically small for him. Jake's eyes narrowed, a spark of that uniquely human madness glinting in their depths. Who said anything about going through? With a maneuver that would have been suicidal for any normal pilot, Jake aimed the shuttle directly at one of the world-render's massive energy beams. At the last possible second, he engaged the experimental phase shift drive they had salvaged from a hive. For a heart-stopping moment, the shuttle seemed to blink out of existence. When it reappeared, they were inside the world-render's shields, hurtling towards its gleaming hull. "Brace for impact," Jake yelled, pushing the engines beyond their safety limits. The crash was catastrophic. The shuttle's reinforced hull crumpled like tissue paper, and for a terrifying moment, Jake thought they had failed. But as the dust settled, he realized they had ended up exactly where they needed to be, a vast chamber that pulsed with the ship's dark energy. "Now or never, people," Jake said, unstrapping himself from the mangled pilot's seat. "Let's introduce these 6 bastards to a little human AMPA hospitality." The team worked with frantic efficiency, setting up the fusion bomb, even as 6 defenders began to swarm into the chamber. Jake and the others fought them off, buying precious seconds for the device to be armed. As the last sequence was input, Jake looked at his team, human and AMPA, once strangers, now bonded by a cause greater than themselves. "It's been an honor," he said simply. They nodded, no further words necessary. As one, they turned to face the oncoming Zix horde, determined to sell their lives dearly. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Just as all hope seemed lost, a familiar voice crackled over their comm systems. "Stand by for extraction, you crazy bastards." A shimmering portal opened in the air before them, the result of experimental teleportation technology that Zara had been developing in secret. Without hesitation, Jake and his team leaped through, leaving the fusion bomb behind as a parting gift for the Zix. They materialized on the bridge of the Horizon just in time to see the world-render erupt in a cataclysmic explosion. The shockwave rippled through space, catching many of the surrounding Zix ships in its destructive embrace. As the light faded and the sensors cleared, a cheer went up across the Allied fleet. The world-render was gone, and with it, the Zix's last hope of victory. In the days that followed, the remaining Zix forces were routed, their will to fight shattered by the loss of their superweapon. But even as the Alliance celebrated its hard-won victory, Jake knew that the real challenges lay ahead. Standing on the Horizon's observation deck, he gazed out at the stars, lost in thought. He sensed Zara's approach before he saw her, their bond having grown so strong it transcended mere physical awareness. "What troubles you, Jake Morrison?" she asked, coming to stand beside him. "We have achieved a great victory." Jake nodded slowly. "We have. But at what cost? And where do we go from here?" Zara was silent for a long moment, considering his words. "The path ahead is uncertain," she finally said. "But whatever challenges we face, we will face them together. Human and AMPA, united as never before." As if to emphasize her point, she extended her hand. a gesture she had learned from her human allies. Jake took it, marveling at how natural it felt now, this connection between their two species. Together, he agreed, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. As the horizon turned towards home, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of two peoples, Jake felt a sense of profound optimism. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger for it. Whatever the future held, he knew that humanity and the Amper would meet it side by side, their alliance a beacon of hope in a vast and wondrous galaxy. The war was over, but their greatest adventure was just beginning.